Hi there! This is going to be a presentation on supporting students with ADHD. My name's Faith and I'm in my first year of Teachers College, but in my 5th year of concurrent education at Brock. Today we're first going to look into what ADHD is, and then we're going to move into why it's important to me. We're next going to move into the types of ADHD. Then we're going to move into the differences in gender, strategies for the classroom, and lastly, we're going to look at some modifications and accommodations. So to start off, we're actually going to start off with a little did you know fact. So did you know that ADHD is actually one of the most common neurodevelopmental disorders in children? So what is ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorders? It usually involves difficulties paying attention, controlling impulse behaviors, so that often involves acting without thinking about the consequences, or people who are just overly active. So ADHD is actually not just having trouble focusing, as many kids struggle to focus. ADHD tends to differentiate when kids do not grow out of that phase, and it causes difficulty in school, at home, or in social settings. So some typical symptoms include lots of daydreaming, squirming and fidgeting, they just can't sit still, they're forgetting and constantly losing things, they make careless mistakes and take a lot of risks. They're very talkative, and they often have trouble resisting temptation. This topic is important to me because students with ADHD are often made to feel like a nuisance or that something is wrong with them. This actually isn't the case, they just learn differently. So if we can reframe our approach to teaching, then maybe we can stop some of the negative self-talk that tends to happen with ADHD students. So it will also help to create safe and inclusive classrooms for all, and it can help the learning and growth of all students. I myself have struggled with ADHD, and finding ways that can help others to stop struggling is a very big priority for myself. So there are actually 3 types of ADHD. The first one is predominantly inattentive. So this presents as difficulties organizing and finishing tasks, paying attention, and following instructions or conversations. They are often easily distracted and forget daily routines and details. So the second type is predominantly hyperactive impulsive. So this is constantly fidgeting, they're likely to be overly talkative, difficulty sitting still, they're restless, they tend to be very impulsive, so that could mean interrupting others, grabbing things from others, or speaking at inappropriate times. They lack patience, difficulty waiting their turn, or listening to instructions, they tend to be clumsy or accident prone. And then the third type is just a combined presentation, so they have both symptomologies of both groups. So the symptomology of ADHD actually differs depending on the gender. Girls tend to be much less diagnosed than males because typically our ADHD symptoms have focused on the male symptomology. So because of that, I'm going to start with the girl symptomology. So girls can have the impulsive hyperactive type, but more often they show the inattentive type. So some of their symptoms include lack of paying attention to close details, they make careless mistakes, they have difficulty staying focused, they seem not to listen or zone out when spoken to, not following through on instructions or not completing schoolwork. They have difficulty organizing, possibly poor time management or messy living spaces. They avoid tasks that they don't like or that are a lot of work. They frequently lose their belongings, are easily distracted, and forget common tasks. Symptoms in boys tend to be more impulsive, hyperactive behaviors instead of inattention. So typically you're going to see more fidgeting, tapping or squirming in their seat, difficulty staying seated. You can see a lot of running around or climbing when it's inappropriate. inability to play or do things quietly. They're constantly on the go. They talk excessively. They blurt out responses before a question has been finished. They have difficulty waiting their turn, and they tend to interrupt or intrude on others during conversations, games, and activities. So, strategies for the classroom. The first one is behavioral classroom management, which encourages positive behaviors through a reward system and discourages negative behaviors. So, this could be as simple as giving a kid a sticker if they pay attention and actively listen for a given period of time. Another example could be given for every interval, so like every half hour they stay focused, they can go outside for an extra minute. The second strategy is organizational training, which teaches students time management, organization, and planning skills. So students with ADHD often struggle with this, and helping them to get a plan and a routine going would really be helpful. They also do well with constant movement breaks, helps if you establish classroom routines, provide choice on the type of assignment, and give them a success checklist so they can stay on track. It helps. You need to get to know your students personally and discuss with them how you can help and make it easier for them. You need to have clear and consistent classroom expectations that are posted so they can see them. And also just don't overwhelm them. You need to break things down into smaller parts or sections so they don't feel the need to quit or not start. And lastly, just lots of visual reminders, real life examples, and hands-on learning. Students with ADHD do really well with that type of learning and engagement. So lastly, we're just going to look at some modifications and accommodations to help students with ADHD. So that looks like extra time on test, lots of positive reinforcement and feedback, technology to assist them, providing movement breaks, changes to the environment to limit distractions, help them to stay organized. Instructions and assignments should be tailored to the student. Seating away from doors and windows, they do best at the front of the class. There's less room for distraction. And it really helps if you use visuals like charts, pictures, and color coding to help them. Lastly, we're just going to look at some ADHD statistics to really reiterate the importance of this matter. So, for children aged 2 to 5, they find that 2.4 are diagnosed with ADHD. When those kids become from the 6 to 11 age range, that jumps up again to 9.6%. And then when they become in the 12 to 17 bracket, it jumps up again to 13.6%. And that's just of students that are diagnosed. So who knows how many are being falling through the cracks of the system and who aren't diagnosed. So it is really important that we initiate these strategies in our classroom to not only help students with ADHD, but to help all students.